So hello Marie, this is Fabiola, and I have finally got some time to try to make a little video for you in order to enable you to understand the process of how you're going to split apart your photo stitch project. So the issue is that your photo stitch design that you have created already using your hatch embroidery has too many stitches for it to be sent to your embroidery machine for your machine to be able to sew it out all in one hooping. And this is a pretty common problem, I think, with a lot of designs maybe that people are creating, and you want to maximize possibly the size of the hoop, and therefore when you're digitizing, maybe what's happening is that the design is so stitch intensive that there's just possibly over 200,000 stitches in your design. So my Janome 12,000 machine has the same problem. That machine only has a maximum stitch limit of 100,000 stitches. And several years ago I had purchased some designs from a company, and it was a very, very dense design, quite large, and there were too many stitches within each one of those designs for me to send it to my Janome 12,000 sewing machine. And so this is my solution that I came up with at the time in order to stitch out that design. So I'm going to try to walk you through this, and as you can see on my screen, I have also created a design using the photo stitch program in Hatch 2 embroidery. I did not take a lot of care with this image preparation. I just decided that I would pop a picture in here and use the photo stitch function in order to digitize this so that I would have something that would be similar to what you're working on. Okay, so my design does not possibly look like a design that I might actually want to stitch out, so I just wanted to make that clear to you first of all. All right, and the other issue about my design is that it actually is not a really large design so far as stitches are concerned. My design only actually has 62,735 stitches in it, so actually this design would be something that would easily be able to be sent to my embroidery machine. But again, this is only an example in order to help you understand the process that we're going to be doing. So before I started this recording, I prepared my picture, and it came into my design screen as an actual embroidery design, okay, with objects created. The next thing that I did before I came onto screen was that I went ahead and I created my basting box that I have spoken to you about in the emails. And it's this green line right here. I'm going to change the color of it to a very bright red in order for it to be visual. And you can see it here now that I have zoomed in on it. What I'm going to do also is I've already opened up, again, I'm going to magnify my screen. I've already opened up 3 different design pages. All right, and the reason that I did that was just, again, a little bit of preparation in order for me to help explain this process. So what I have done, we're now in design number 1. That's where my picture is at, with my embroidery objects created in it and a basting box that goes around the perimeter of my design. What I'm first of all going to do is I have selected my basting box, right? You can tell that it is selected. I am going to copy this, and I'm going to come over into my next page that I have already created, and I'm going to paste it in there. All right, I'm also going to do the same thing in design number 2, what's called design number 2, and I'm going to paste the basting box there as well. So what I've got going on right now is I've got 3 pages. Each one of them has my basting box pasted into it. Now, one of the things I also want to just have you make sure in your settings for your hoop, which is up here on your toolbar, I want you to right click on that and just make sure that your design, the tab that says design here for your hoop, I want you to have the hoop position set for automatic centering, and I don't want it to be at the start needle position right now, okay? So I'm just going to say okay, and that assures that the basting box that we have created is actually in the center of your hoop, and it's going to be in the center of the hoop on all of the 3 pages that we have done. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. I'm going to click off of that basting box now. Next, what I'm going to do is I am going to make sure right now that my objects over here on my sequence bar, Instead of it being turned on to objects, I'm going to have it turned on to colors, because now what we've done is we are just showing the different color layers. And I know that I tried to describe this process to you in the various emails that have been generated between the two of us in the last couple of days. What you want to do, Marie, is you want to split this design apart according to the stitch layers. All right, so that's why you want to turn it on to colors, because when this design was created using the photo stitch, it created it using layers of color. And so the easiest way for you to start taking this design apart is to turn on that color separator rather than the object separator. You can see in my design that what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start working from the top toward the bottom. All right, I'm just, as an example, going to take color number 1. What I am doing is I am selecting these. I'm clicking on them, and I'm going to hold my control key down on my keyboard. And I'm going to take the first 3 colors, okay, out of this design. So I've selected them all by clicking with my left mouse button and holding the control key down. I'm going to come up to the toolbar and I'm going to use my cut button. So I'm going to cut them. I'm now going to go over to design, this next design page over here, design number 1, and I am going to paste. So those 3 designs are now included with a basting box. The first color, which was black, and I don't even really know what these colors are, which doesn't really make a difference. I'm going to click off of them. I'm going to go back to my original design. Next of all, I'm going to pick the next 3 colors. Again, this is just going to be an example. I don't know how many colors your design is created with, and I don't know how many stitches are actually in your design. But you're going to see that down here on my toolbar, I'm going to try to zoom into this so that I can show you. I went from 64,000 stitches down to 40,000 just by pulling out those first 3 sections of this design. Okay? So we're going to do the same thing again. This time I'm going to take the next 3 chunks of color, clicking with my left mouse button, holding down my control key at the same time, clicking on the next 3, come up to the cut button, go over to my last design page that I already opened up, and I'm going to paste them in there. All right, so what you are going to be able to start seeing here is that the designs are split apart, but they are actually in the, I'm going to change my color here because it's looking kind of dim. It's a little bit difficult to see. All right, I've changed my color to a white. So what you're going to see now is that the designs that I have cut have stayed centered in the hoop along with that basting box. All right, that basting box is really not necessary to be stitching it every single time that you're going to stitch this design out. It's just in order for you to feel comfortable knowing that your design segments are still centered within that same designated size that it is in the hoop. So I hope that that makes sense to you. So now what we've got is 3 different pages with 3 different sections of the design open. I'm coming back to my original. I'm actually going to hide my original photo so that it doesn't confuse the issue of what this actually looks like. So there's what's left of my original design. If I look at this, it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it's basically got about 10 colors left in it still. But again, I don't need to continue pulling this thing apart in order for it to be sent to my sewing machine. I can stop at this point. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to export this design, and I'm going to export it into my computer. I'm not going to be exporting this onto a USB stick for it to go to my machine. And the reason why is because I just want to save this as its native format. So I'm saving my design as, I've come over here into my document folder where I have already created a folder for my grandson Henry, and this is a picture of Henry. So what I'm going to call this is hooping 1 hoop. Okay, hooping. And the only reason I'm calling it 1 hooping is because I just want to be able to designate that this is the first hooping out of this design. Actually, it's not going to be the first one. It's going to be the last one. Excuse me. I'm sorry about that. So out of 3 hoopings, this is going to be the 3rd hooping. So I'm just going to call it 3rd. How's that? And it is an EMB design, and I'm going to save it. My machine is going to take a little while to save it because these designs I've noticed, I actually haven't stitched out any photo stitch. You're way ahead of me on that, Marie. And I'm also going to export it. It's still called third. This time it's being exported as a JPX because it's going to be sewn out on my Janome 15,000 machine. And I need to go to the proper folder. So I'm looking for my Henry folder. There it is. Open it up. Third JPX. Save it. Okay? Again, it's going to take a couple of moments for my program to save it there. A little bit slow. But remember, the first time that we pulled some designs out, it was the first part of this design. It's in this hooping right here. So this is actually going to be my first. All right? I'm going to save it first of all as same folder that I was in previously. I'm going to call it first. I'm going to save it. I'm going to export it as a JPX. It's still called first. I'm going to save it. All right. Part 2 that we created a little while ago. There's all those little squiggles. I'm going to save this as second. I'm just typing in the name, EMB. Saving it as the second. I'm going to export it now as a stitch file. Second JPX. So now you're going to see that in my stitch files I've got the first section, the third section, and this is the second section. So the main thing I think is going to be, hopefully you won't get confused on, is making sure that you've just kept these as the proper order of sequence. So what you're going to do is you're going to hoop up your well-stabilized fabric, get your threads all in order. You're going to stitch out your first one. You're going to keep your hoop on your machine. You're going to open up the second stitch file and you're going to stitch out the second part. When that's completed, you'll open up your third stitch file and stitch out the third part, or however many different sections you need to split your design into in order for it to be stitched out on your sewing machine. Okay, so hopefully, Marie, this now makes perfect sense to you, and I'm hoping that we see some really good results out of your great big stitch intensive design that you have created in your Hatch photo stitch. Let me know how it goes. Thanks for watching.